So today I want to revisit the debate over foreign and illegal alien commercial truck drivers in the United States. You may remember some of these headlines from earlier in the year, where, for instance, Trump mandated that all CDL holders in the United States pass in English language proficiency. After all, if you're going to be operating heavy motor vehicles on our streets, you would at least think that it should be a basic prerequisite to know how to read the road signs. But of course, Democrats and liberals responded by saying that was racist. And I'm not making that up. We actually played videos on this channel of liberals saying that decision was racist. But furthermore, of course, back during the summer, similar headlines as we saw the result, the catastrophic consequences of allowing non-English speaking illegal aliens to drive, where, for instance, you had that famous video out of Florida where that one illegal from India basically made an illegal U-turn because he couldn't read or had no regard for the road sign. The trailer got stuck in the middle of the highway. Someone right behind them slammed into it, and that ended up killing like a family of 3 or something like that. Well, in today's video, I want to bring you yet more evidence of just how dangerous and problematic this issue is for America, right? In the sense that even more American citizens are dying as a result of CDL commercial truck drivers who literally should not be in the country to begin with, much less operating motor vehicles on the road. But on the flip side, show you how the Trump crackdown is actually working, right? Not just in the sense of many people are being deported or found out or the CDLs are being revoked as a result of this, but the impact that is having on the American labor market and specifically American truckers. As you can see, native-born and citizen American truckers are currently enjoying increased pay rates. The salaries are going up after the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal migrant drivers. And what is that about? That is simply the definition of America first and making America great again. And by the way, this is ironically what the Democrats and liberals oppose, right? They scream so much about better wages for workers, we're liberals, all this stuff. But yet when you're actually doing something very ironically, that is not serving the mega corporations who want cheap labor, but rather actually raising the salaries of American citizens for real, you notice the Democrats scream about that. They say, we need the illegals to work these jobs, blah, blah, blah. It's so cruel. And of course, many others often beg the question, oh, well, I'm fine deporting the violent criminals, but why do you have to deport the hardworking people? Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly that reason why. Because American workers in this country have been screwed, and it is kind of fundamentally illiberal, at least for the Democrat Party of 20 years ago, to be opposing the very thing that is benefiting our own lives. Okay, that's why you should also go after non-criminal illegals, because even if they maybe are not such bad people, although sometimes that could be disputed, they're fundamentally undercutting the American labor market. And that is not something that the supposed unions, for instance, should be in favor of. But nonetheless, I want to tell you this whole chronicle, kind of from start to finish in today's video, right? The effects of the Democrat policy, which are very deadly, quite literally, of issuing CDL licenses to illegal aliens, the results that has caused, the subsequent Trump crackdown, which, by the way, involves even defunding states like California who are refusing to comply with the policy meant to save the lives of Americans, as well as, again, the positive consequence that's having for American citizens in this country. And let it be said, Democrats in your country, right, who again claim to be so for the workers, would rather suppress your wages and potentially make you not even able to find a job simply so that that amount of money can go to foreigners, right? So liberal, so pro-union of them. But anyways, we'll tell you all about it, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It's not only the best way to support our work, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, so we are seeing more evidence earlier this month in terms of what is actually happening. We're discovering, for instance, in New York, that the state government is using a loophole to grant illegal aliens these CDLs by issuing these things called no name given, right? You can see, literally, because they're an illegal and they have even no like temporary status or anything, you can't issue a legitimate driver's license. So they just say no name given, and then they're granted what? A limited term CDL, right? And this person was apparently arrested in the state of Oklahoma. So that's how liberally, guys, they're giving out commercial driver's licenses in this country. And that's having obviously devastating consequences. By the way, that guy in Florida who was in the viral video that killed like 3 people, he got a CDL issued in, guess where? California. So noticing something of a pattern here? That said, look at the consequences. I mean, just earlier this month, in fact, a couple of days ago, we saw yet another tragedy as a result on the road of an illegal alien truck driver who, guess what? Can't speak English and did not have a proper commercial driver's license, at least under the actual federal law. And this was in the state of Indiana. So, you know, it's like even if the red states follow the rules and actually practice E-Verify and actually don't hire illegals, because of the Interstate Commerce Pact, literally the blue states are also sending like road fatalities and murder to our own states. Okay, this is how disgusting the issue is. And again, they're going to sit here and protest, you can't deport them. No, this is so crucial. We're the good. These people think they're the good guys, which is just so ironic. While they not only suppress American wages, but kill American citizens on the road as a result of their so-called tolerance, they claim that we're the fascists, we're the bad guys of history. Okay, but that said, take a listen to what just happened in Indiana just like about a week ago.
Police in Portage, Indiana, investigating a deadly crash that left 1 person dead, another arrested. Police say a semi-driver, Brako Stankovic here, swerved into oncoming traffic, hitting a Subaru head-on. The 54-year-old driver was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators say Stankovic did not have a valid commercial driver's license and was using a suspended license belonging to a family member. He is now charged with reckless homicide, among other charges. He's being held on an ICE detainer due to his immigration status.
By the way, that example is far from isolated. Just today, we got the formal ID of a guy who recently in Ontario, Southern California, killed at least 3 people and hospitalized 2 as a result of this. And I'm not going to play the video because it's extremely graphic. But basically what happened is traffic comes to a stop. This guy never hits the brakes, right? He just goes speeding into, he rams through, like he crushes basically 2 cars and even hits a semi truck in front of him. And that's where the momentum finally stops because again, he was driving that fast. Well, take a listen. The 21-year-old semi truck driver that caused a deadly crash on the 10 freeway in Ontario, California, has been identified as Jashanpreet Singh, according to KTLA. Singh was arrested at the scene on suspicion of driving under the influence of drugs, according to authorities. Now, this guy's immigration status is not formally being released yet. I really wonder why. But again, more cause for suspicion, definitely. And this keeps on happening, for instance, in California. And guys, anyone, by the way, who is in the commercial truck driving industry will tell you all about this problem. I mean, again, just this week, this is all basically in the span of a week. Some of these cases are older, but these are where like the videos are being released or the details are emerging. We saw situations like this just emerging from like random truck incidents on the road. And again, this is a rampant problem in the United States of America. But check it out, right? Another example of what we're talking about right here in this video.
You have got to be kidding me. I mean, what the are...
Just totally going the wrong way. Like, what is he doing, right?
What are you doing?
I'm going that way. Keep us right here. But it's not working.
You are going the wrong way down the freeway. You are committing a felony right now.
Okay, what I'm doing, sir?
Well, one, why the going the wrong way down the freeway? Okay. Turn your hazard lights on now. Your hazard lights, your blinkers.
He doesn't even know how to do that or what that is, by the way. You know why? Because where he's from, this is probably completely normal. And by simply saying, oh, well, in the United States, if you like don't even know the traffic laws or can't read English, yeah, you shouldn't be driving on the roads, period, but especially in a freaking commercial truck, they say you're racist for that, right? You don't want foreigners who don't know how to drive in the United States killing American citizens. That must make you a bigot. That is the actual argument of the Democrat Party. And again, we've shown in the last video we did on like the truck driving issue, literally liberals saying exactly that, right? Saying it was racist to demand that like stuff like this not happen in America. So ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to keep in mind this is what we're dealing with. And again, I say, It should be really basic common sense, right? Again, if you're applying for a CDL and you have to read the road signs, okay? They're not all universal, for instance. Like the thing going for the way station, even like the speed limit sign, what does that number mean? I don't know, right? Yield, things like it's very basic, okay? You have to be able to read road signs in order to drive, generally speaking, right? So that's number one. And then number two, you have to know the traffic laws and obey them. If you don't, why exactly are you giving a driver's license? Oh, you're just not tolerant of other cultures. That's actually what they think, you know? Actually, as a matter of fact, this is like the suicidal, quote unquote, empathy of liberalism. No. If you're tolerant of other cultures on the road, then that means, guess what? Okay, so countries who drive the other side of the road, they can just ram right into you, right? People who, their countries, they don't have street lights, so they just run through red lights and run through stop signs because no one regards, and it's kind of like a free-for-all. That's what your tolerance of other cultures means, liberals. Death for American citizens. What if that was you, by the way? How would you feel? You freaking scum. The Trump is so racist for requiring English. How would you feel if that was someone you knew who was killed by a migrant truck driver who killed that person because, again, they had no respect for American traffic laws and or could not speak English and even read the road signs and were just doing whatever they wanted on the road? How would you feel? Serious question. So don't sit here and claim again to be like the good guys or the ones who really have empathy for others. If you had empathy, you'd stop policies that are getting people killed. It's that simple. It's that simple. But, they don't practice empathy, quote unquote. If anything, they practice what you could call suicidal empathy. Quite literally, that's exactly what this is. But that said, what are the good guys doing? Cracking down on it, which is exactly why we are seeing stories like this just this week, talking about how non-citizens who don't speak English are being denied the renewal for their trucking license. Guess what? After the Trump administration, the good guys issued new guidance to close many of these loopholes that were allowing illegals and even just migrants in general to drive on the road in big rig 18-wheeler trucks. Take a listen.
Last week, Vivek Sharma went to the DMV to renew his trucking license, but he was denied. The problem? New rules surrounding the process.
जिनके पास ग्रीन कार्ड है या सिटीजन है उनका ही चलेगा लाइसेंस.
As he explains in Hindi, only green card holders and U.S. citizens can get their commercial driver's license renewed. Sharma's been in the U.S. legally for the past 10 years, seeking political asylum. His final court case is next year. He's been driving a truck for the past 8 years, but now he can't. अब क्या करेंगे आप?
अभी क्या कुछ लोकल जॉब देखेंगे?
When asked what comes next, he says he's worried. Trucking paid well. The sudden stop in income means he won't have money to send back to his family in India. Now he will have to start over. The U.S. Department of Transportation issued emergency rules that require the DMV to stop issuing commercial driver's licenses, or CDLs, to drivers who are not U.S. citizens or permanent residents. Even those with legal work visas, like Sharma, will be denied.
Well, boo freaking who, cry me a river. Again, notice how the news story there is trying to frame him as the victim, right? They want you to feel sorry for this guy. First of all, he said he's been in the United States how long, like 10 years or something? Has not, at least been working in trucking 10 years, so maybe longer than that. Hasn't learned a single word of English, right? He that's how little regard you have for the society that is supposedly so great, that you cherish, you really want to be in. You belong here so much, but you don't even know English after 10 years. You would think maybe you pick up like basic words, at least how to, you don't have to speak academically, but at least conversationally. No, of course not. And furthermore, what is this supposed American patriot? Just as American as you or I, guys, member of the great American melting pot, as you know, what does he say his incentive is for even being in the United States and working and, being a part of our society? Is it because he loves America? No. It's because he says he needs to send money back to his family in India. In other words, remittances. It's the only reason he's here. It's the only reason, frankly, a lot of people are here, right? They don't, we have this image of, people came over and they burned the boats and they burned the passports and now they want to be part of the American family. Quite literally, a lot of them don't, right? You see a prime example of that right here. All they see basically our country as is a market or a pile of money to be looted for themselves, right? They don't want to add, they don't want to contribute. And then we're supposed to have sympathy for them. We're supposed to be like, no, you're just as American as a person who was born here or whatever or something, or a person whose family's been here generations. It's like, they're not even saying they're American. They're literally just saying, oh, so this is like a country that I can use and abuse and grift off of and make money for, so that way I can send back to my family in a foreign country. Yeah, buddy, no, you should not have a CDL. I absolutely stand by that, but I'm gonna go one step further. I think you should be deported. Because first of all, you've been here 10 years trying to seek an asylum claim. But interestingly, I don't know what you did back in India, unless it was a crime or something, but your family's still there. Why didn't they come with you to seek asylum? Why did you, as the young working male, the fighting age male, why are you the only one who is coming to seek asylum, right? Because keep in mind, asylum, it basically means you're facing some type of religious or political or ethnic persecution for who you are. So you mean to tell me your family's not facing that persecution? Oh, it's almost like your entire asylum claim is bogus. You are a grifter who took advantage of our immigration system and our openness and tolerance as a society, right? These people just abuse that. And now, again, the Democrat Party's official platform is, this is the good guy. Right? These are the type of quote unquote Americans that they are fighting for, who are, first of all, again, not Americans, and secondly, not even good people, right? Grifters who basically want to loot what they think is a dying empire for the last cent they have, no regard for anything. Well, let's interview him for the local news, guys. But anyways, again, the good policy is people like this starting to be denied those very CDLs. And take a listen as great American truckers talk about the impacts of these policies for themselves, which you could guess are overwhelmingly positive.
Drivers were just arrested by the Oklahoma Highway Patrol during a joint operation they did with ICE. And during this multi-day operation that they conducted at several different way stations during the state, mainly ones on I-40, they focused on trucks that were registered out of California and licenses that were issued by California, because it has now been divulged that California is one of 19 states that we now know that has been giving CDLs to undocumented immigrants illegally in contradiction to federal law and regulation. These immigrants range from people from China, Russia, Turkey, Ukraine, etc.
I heard they pausing all the visas, which that's a big win for American truck driving. Because majority of the truck drivers are foreigners. And a lot of them don't even speak English. So how did you get your license in the first place? You don't speak English. So now that they're putting a pause on all you guys' visas, we told them carriers is coming. Reckoning is coming. Ever since that U-turn happened, I say, yeah, they about to lay the smackdown on these illegal drivers driving these damn semi-trucks. And here we go. Let's get it.
Yep, there you go. Now, I want you to take a guess. Besides the roads simply becoming safer, what do you think the outcome of this policy was for American truck drivers in this country? Yeah, it's actually common sense. It's very basic supply and demand. Guess what? Their salaries are going up. Their lives are getting better. And this really does symbolize the divide in our politics, right? Either you are you could say a conservative, or maybe just like a paternalist who cares about just taking care of your people, right? Who wants to see the lives of ordinary people in this country benefit and their lives get better, or you are a globalist who would rather see that people from other countries who don't even belong here, right, their lives get better at the expense of your own people, right? Fundamentally, like, do you want to help your country or do you want to betray your country? It really is that simple. And again, next time Democrats tell you, why do you have to deport the hardworking illegals? This is the reason why. From Breitbart News, truckers are gaining wages as ICE detains highway illegals. Yeah, you don't say. It's almost like those foreigners, those illegals, are brought in by greedy corporations to work as cheap labor. As a result, they both take American jobs, and for the American jobs that are still around, it suppresses their wages because, again, supply and demand. You have the same amount of demand for workers, but more supply. Guess what? The value of the individual worker goes down, and so you can pay them less. Again, very basic economics here, guys. Well, some American truckers say they're getting paid more per mile as President Donald Trump's enforcement policies are pushing many of Joe Biden's illegal migrants from the highways. One person said, I normally do Chicago to Fargo for $1,200. Had a delivery broker call and offer me $1,800. Needless to say, I took him up on the offer. Lord, do I hope this hangs around a little bit. That's patriotism, by the way, right? This is what it's all about. Here's what's also interesting. The post-election gain for American truckers comes amid a cargo slump that is threatening the economic stability of many trucking firms and brokerage companies. The slump is especially damaging to the companies that exploited the huge population of low-wage illegal truckers who are being pushed off the roads by Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's enforcement of long-ignored safety regulations. And you know what? I have a hard time feeling bad about it. Because these are, I'm no socialist, keep in mind, but I also don't really have respect for corporations that, first of all, break the rules, or that everyone else has to follow. You don't have a free market if there's favoritism, right? But of course, secondly, who feel no social responsibility to the country. That's something I believe about business is yes, it's all about, you want to make money, you don't want to pay taxes, all that stuff. Like capitalism is good. But I think especially when you're doing well in this country, there should be a mindset of give back to the country, give back or create opportunities for the society that gave you that opportunity to begin with. But of course, what do? They're like, no, screw all the freaking Americans. Let's bring in a bunch of foreigners so that way we can maximize profits. And again, I'm not trying to be a socialist, but there is something like seriously wrong with that mentality in our country and needs to change, right? We can't just have like a blind mentality of capitalism, even though it's really not. But that mindset, without understanding that there's some degree of a social responsibility to one another. Okay, just saying. That's when the supposed American greed actually becomes dystopian. Is this situation right here? Anyways, the exit of the foreign drivers is good news for the American truckers working in the relatively small spot market of online orders and unique loads. Under Biden, the per-mile rates in this market were slashed by many cheap illegal drivers from India and Eastern Europe, including Serbia and Croatia, but Duffy's crackdown is creating a compliance crunch that enables American truckers in most districts to get higher per-mile rates. Very good. By the way, I also want to point out, so the trucking industry is currently saying that there is a cargo slump. Of course, we also know across even other industries outside of trucking that AI and automation are taking a bunch of jobs. As a matter of fact, self-driving trucks, ever heard of that? That could be a future thing we start to see on the road in the coming decades. Already have self-driving taxis. And even in corporate America, right? A lot of those different problems. And that's a portion of why it's kind of hard for young people at the moment to find a job. The reason I'm bringing up all of these current changes to our society that we know are happening as a result of technology is to ask to the Democrats. So you say we need these people, right? Our economy needs this type of labor. And yet, at the same time, we all can notice that automation is taking everything over, which is going to create enough problems as it is for American-born workers. I'm not downplaying that. But guess what you're going to do next? While that's all happening, you're like, oh, let's make it even worse for American workers by bringing in a bunch of foreign labor and migrants and illegals to do those jobs instead, right? And then furthermore, what happens when automation completely takes over? You have this population, if you're united as a country, you can overcome and figure out together how to change in a rapid kind of social and technological revolution. But what do you think is going to happen to the country, ladies and gentlemen, when a bunch of fighting age young males from other places who have no loyalty to the place came over for economic opportunity, and then that economic opportunity dissipated as a result of societal change? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the social crisis, or perhaps worse, that Democrats are brewing? Do you notice what is going on there and how insane the liberal idea is, right? Knowing that our economy is rapidly changing and certain jobs are kind of going away or in danger in a certain sense, the Democrat answer is, oh, let's import more foreigners to fill a shrinking labor market, and surely that won't go wrong at all. Okay? Yeah. If I didn't know any better, I would think that was an intentional Marxist ploy because they know what they're doing is going to destabilize society. It's going to cause an uprising. And what better time to preach the Marxism and try to have a communist overthrowing of the system than artificially creating that crisis to begin with? I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. But, some more details here. Volumes are anemic, but spots are rising 2%, and you keep seeing it going on, right? We're seeing the bottom feeders get squeezed out of the market, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it should be pretty common sense. The raids by immigration agents on the roads in a number of states, which about 15 Serbian truck drivers were arrested in the last few days, are continuing, according to some reports. And again, pretty straightforward common sense. Now, last thing I want to point out here, and this shouldn't really come as a surprise to you, but there is, of course, one state that is trying to obstruct this policy. They want to keep giving CDLs to illegal aliens. They don't want, by the way, Gavin Newsom, okay, I gave it away, it's California, does not want the salaries of American truck drivers to be going up. And lastly, perhaps most importantly, they are fine with all the people dying as a result of this insane suicidal empathy policy. But in response, apparently Sean Duffy is looking to pull that funding, in fact, already has. So take a listen.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says he'll withhold $40 million from California. He says the state is failing to enforce the English language requirements for truckers. Governor Gavin Newsom's office pushed back, saying the state's commercial truck drivers have a lower crash rate than the national average. Duffy launched his investigation back in August after an illegal immigrant killed 3 people while making an illegal U-turn on a Florida highway. His commercial license was issued in California. Investigators say the trucker failed an English proficiency exam after the crash.
To drive an 18-wheeler, a semi, a school bus, you have to speak English and you have to understand English. And you should be tested for this when you take your CDL exam. We sent out notices to all the states that they have to start to comply. All the states have complied, but one, that would be California. Gavin Newsom cares more about illegal migrants than he does about the safety of his citizens.
The driver in that fatal crash was charged with 3 counts of vehicular homicide and immigration violations. He is being held without bond.
Yeah, well, again, why would Gavin Newsom oppose such a simple common sense policy? It's not just about Trump derangement syndrome. I think it's deeper than that. This is the agenda of the Democrat Party, right? As I just explained, that's why they want a bunch of illegal alien workers when, despite their rhetoric, there is no actual demand or need for them. In fact, you're just engineering a social crisis on the horizon, right? But that's who these people are appealing to. That's who the party cares about. And ultimately, that's who the party probably in the future wants to create some type of revolution or something on behalf of. I mean, we just talked last week about how Chicago was deputizing illegal aliens on the street and giving them guns. You see this as well. I mean, they're literally killing American citizens. And Gavin Newsom says, I support that, It's insane. It's crazy. But again, thank you to the Trump administration for putting America first, making America great again. This is exactly what that looks like. That said, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.